Hey VC, it's Dave here in Texas, and I watched some of Julius Jabbar's videos. The first one was on Live Blues, and then the other day he did one on John Mayall, and I have enjoyed him, and I thought I'd just add my 2 cents to his blues thread. Now, like a lot of guys that or people that grew up in the 60s, I listened to a lot of the rock bands at the time, and a lot of those bands were influenced by the blues as well. And stuff like The Animals was blues based. Then you had Cream. This is their Live Cream album, and there's another one. This is Live Cream 1. They had another one that's Live Cream 2. And if you like that type of jammy blues, psychedelic blues, this is a pretty good one to pick up, like on their Wheels of Fire album with that song Crossroads. This is sort of along that line. And this is the type of blues I still like listening to today, actually. If I'm going to listen to any kind of blues, I kind of like this type stuff as well, because this is the type of stuff I grew up with, really. This is Canned Heat. This is a greatest hits by them. The best of Canned Heat. I'd still like to get some other albums by Canned Heat, particularly, I think it's their first album, maybe, where they all have faces. Their faces on the front, and they're, it's painted in kind of a psychedelic manner. But then of course there was Jimi Hendrix. This is his Electric Ladyland. His music was very blues influenced. And then there was other people like Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, which normally you don't think of as blues, but if you listen to Freak Out and you hear that song Trouble Coming Every Day, which was about the riots in Watts, that song is particularly a blues song. This is another British blues, Fleetwood Mac's Then Play On. I've always liked this album, and like I said, it has touches of the blues in it, along with psychedelic music, and along with other influences that are maybe a little bit more British influenced. But and also, as far as this album, if you get the CD, which was I picked up the CD as well because it has one of their hits called excuse me, Rattlesnake Shake. Let's see, is that the song that I'm thinking of? No, there's another song that's not included on this, and the title escapes me right now. But anyway, I've got this on vinyl and CD as well. And also, while on Fleetwood Mac and talking about live music, generally if I'm going to listen to something that's kind of straight blues, I like this one right here. Now, Fleetwood Mac had their very first albums, like English Rose and others, were really blues type albums, and this one is as well. This is Fleetwood Mac in Chicago, 1969, and it has people like Buddy Guy, Willie Dixon, Otis Spann, and several other people that play with them on this album. It's a 2-record set, and yeah, if I reach for strictly a blues album without any psychedelic influence or anything, I've always really liked this album here. One of Fleetwood Mac's better albums, in my opinion. But then there was also stuff like these albums. This is Hot Tuna. This is their acoustic album, more or less. And This is the electric version of that with Jack Cassidy on bass and Jorma, I always pronounce his name Kawanakan. I don't know if that's correct or not. But this is the electric, an electric set, live set by them. And this is an acoustical version. Both are really good. I kind of tend to favor this album a little bit more, but it all depends upon the mood I'm in. Of course, you had Johnny Winters, and Johnny put out a lot of good albums. You know, starting out, I believe this is the first album, and then he put out Progressive Blues Experiment, and many others. And like the first, I don't know, 5 or 6, all those first 5 or 6 albums I like a lot. This is a picture right here of Willie Dixon. That's his brother Edgar Winters right there. It's a blues guy called Walter Horton right here. And then here's another one right here, Johnny Winters and live. And yeah, I like this album too. It's a little bit more rockin' than you know, of the stuff that I listen to today, but it's still pretty good to pull out every once in a while and listen to. This also has Rick Derringer on it, and I finally got to see Rick Derringer play live over here at a town at a blues festival. Of course, you had the Allman Brothers and even people like the Groundhogs, which were out of England, and you had Savoy Brown 10 years after. Golly, just you know, even that first Jethro Tull album, This Was by Jethro Tull, is very blues influenced, I think. And just a lot of those bands at the time, you know, Eric Clapton, and all those guys, you know, were the ones that kind of, Rolling Stones, of course, you know, and like these guys here would often kind of name drop, you know, the bands or the blues guys that they were influenced by. And so I kind of got interested in blues and who were the original guys, and the first album I picked up was this one right here. It's called Roots, and it's a compilation album, and it has various artists on it, like because I didn't know anything about it. This was way before the internet, or you know, didn't have any way to research this stuff. And so I picked up this album, but it's got like Little Walter on it, Howling Wolf, Muddy Waters, Sonny Boy Williams, Lowell Fulsom, John Lee Hooker, Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry, which I was already familiar with, but you know, didn't really associate him too much with the blues, Elmore James, and just a bunch of blues artists like that. And it kind of, you know, got me into picking up some other albums by blues guys. Now, when I moved to Austin, one of the first guys I met was a guy above me. I was living in a little garage apartment, and I believe his last name was Pattenbach. His first name was Chuck, and I believe his last name was Pattenbach, but he played the drums, and he was really interested in blues music. Of course, he liked the Allman Brothers and all that kind of southern rock stuff. But also, I mean, he liked a lot of other stuff as well, but one of the first albums that he introduced me to was this guy here, Bobby Blues Bland. And although the album cover may look pretty bland, he was actually an interesting blues singer, and I still like these albums today. And this is the other one. This is the first album in that of those two, Bobby Blues Bland. And yeah, they're just really not quite so guitar oriented, but almost has kind of an orchestration feel to it. And I kind of think of this stuff as I don't know, more appealing to me these days anyway, and it really was back then too. But seeing if there's any songs on here that I recognize that I thought maybe somebody else might recognize as well, but I don't really see any. Well, here's Stormy Monday. Of course, Stormy Monday was the song that the Allman Brothers did. And Farther Up the Road, I'm not sure if that's the one, Farther On Up the Road, that Eric Clapton has done. But yeah, Stormy Monday, I know that's the one the Allman Brothers had done. And then there's, of course, this guy, Robert Johnson, King of the Delta Blues. This again is an album I can listen to today that you know, has a lot of appeal. On here is Crossroads, which is the same song that Cream has done. And that may be it. Hellhound on My Trail, I believe Savoy Brown did a version of that. This is the second one in that series. This has got Sweet Home Chicago on it, and Love in Vain, which is the Rolling Stones cover song. But yeah, this is an easy one to get into, Robert Johnson. And then I found out about this guy. This is T-Bone Walker, and he was born over here at Linden, Texas. And he's very influential as well. In fact, there's a blues festival. They used to hold a blues festival over there in Linden, Texas, and then moved it over to Longview, Texas. And I got to make it over there one time when they had it. They have kind of discontinued that, or at least they did for a year or two. And the year I went over there to Longview, they had Jimmy Ray Vaughan, they had, oh golly, Tony Joe White, they had, I just mentioned his name, but I have a mental block against this guy's name for some reason. Rick Derringer, which I've never really liked Rick Derringer, but man, he really put on a really great performance. And you know, he did Hang On Snoopy, which is a really early hit of the I don't know, 60s, and just played a bunch of, you know, rock and roll stuff, but he was really great to see on stage. And then so was Tony Joe White. It was just Tony Joe White and I believe one other guy would help him out on bass or something. And he also had some kind of recorder or some kind of setup there that he could like sing against or like overdub stuff. But Tony Joe White was really good too. So, you know, and so was Jimmy Vaughan, of course. Jimmy Ray Vaughan. But anyway, T-Bone Walker was born over in Linden, and then I think he got famous from just traveling all over. But he was a really influential bluesman. And yeah, this is a good album, which is an overview really of his stuff. 28 of his pace-setting Imperial recordings, urban believe and let's see if there's anything on here I recognize. Evil Hearted Woman, I believe people may have covered, and that may be it. But at any rate, really good album if you find anything by T-Bone Walker. This one here is Sonny and Brownie McGhee. The guitarist is Brownie McGhee, and there are Arlo Guthrie's on here as well. Kind of an acoustic feel to this album, and I haven't heard it in a while. Sonny Terry does the vocals along with Brownie McGhee. And yeah, Arlo Guthrie plays on a couple of cuts, and this is sort of more of an acoustic feel, but this is one of those albums I bought when I was living in Austin, and it's always kind of held some appeal to me. But and they've done several albums together. This is Freddie King's Greatest Hits, and Freddie King used to play in and around the Dallas area, and also in Austin quite a bit. Never got to see myself play live, but this is a really good album by him. I'm sure there are other ones. I just kind of bought this album because I was curious about his music and wanted to hear kind of a best of by him. But yeah, really good. I believe Leon Russell plays piano on here, if I'm not mistaken. And Carl Radle, that played with Eric Clapton. Yeah, Leon Russell is on here. Don Preston, and several other musicians that you're probably acquainted with play on here as well. But yeah, Freddie King. This is some Albert King, Years Gone By. That's a pretty good album. Another Albert King. This is Lovejoy. On here he does Honky Tonk Woman by the Stones, and more kind of an upbeat or kind of contemporary sound, I would say. Easy to get into, more so than, say, I would say maybe B.B. King, although I do like B.B. King too. This is John Lee Hooker, Serves You Right to Suffer. This is actually a pretty good album, and I bought it used. It's pretty worn, but the record in it is in good shape. On the Impulse label, let's see. I don't know if I recognize any of the songs on here that anybody else would know, but this is a really good album. And then I've got this one here. This is Hoodoo Man Blues, Junior Wells. He plays harmonica. He's on here with Buddy Guy, Chicago Blues Band. And this is a really good album too. And it's different due to the addition of the harmonica on here. But yeah, an interesting different take on the blues. So at any rate, well, let's see, hold on a second. There were a couple other stuff I pulled out. These are some more modern blues too, and I guess, you know, and being from Texas, I mean, liking Stevie Ray Vaughan is almost a prerequisite. Not really, but I like Stevie Ray Vaughan regardless. But this is one of my favorite Stevie Ray Vaughan albums. That's him and Jimmy together. Of course, that's them playing as kids together. But yeah, this is a pretty neat album. I mean, I like just about all of Stevie Ray Vaughan's stuff, but that was real good too. This is Robert Cray, Strong Persuader. He had a hit song on FM not that long ago. Duke Robillard and the Pleasure Kings. Sort of unusual, but a really upbeat, engaging rock and blues type album. Here's one by Ronnie Earl. I Like It When It Rains. Interesting blues guy. Has his own take on the blues. This is on Antone's Records, which is out of Austin. But there's a club there too called Antone's, And I think, or at least at one time, next door there used to be a, place where you could buy records out of there as well. This is, like I said, Ronnie Earl. Again, don't really recognize any of the songs on here. It looks like most of them are written by him. Well, they're Sitting on Top of the World, which Cream had made famous as well. And Down on Guadalupe, which is a street there in Austin. Yeah, good album. Anyway, that's my addition to the blues thread, and I thought I would come on here and show a few blues albums I have. I certainly have some more, but those are the ones I like the most, and the ones I kind of listen to the most. So at any rate, hope everybody is doing well, and we'll see you later.